In today's video, I'm recapping the events that led up to the H3 podcast, which featured Bobby Lee and Khalyla, where they further exposed Brendan Schaub for some questionable things that he's done recently to Bobby and Khalyla personally. So I wanted to kind of recap that in this video, and let's get right into it. This entire situation really began in an episode of the Trash Tuesday podcast, which features Khalyla. In this podcast, Khalyla and one of her co-hosts, Annie Letterman, talk about married guys hitting on them, and they kind of allude to a comedian who has hit on them in recent years while being a married man. And although they don't explicitly say who it is, the internet realized pretty quickly who they were talking about based on the clues. The main one being that this person isn't a very funny comedian. There was a little bit of fallout just from this episode, and this podcast is where everything started. So I'll roll some clips here to give some context of what was said in this podcast.
I had a guy that was like, why don't you walk me to my truck, this married guy, where I'm like, and we know him, I'm not going to say who it is, but he's like, why don't you give me a walk, you should walk me to my truck. I'm like, so what, I can blow you? Like, what?
Wait,
like,
who was it? Oh.
But it's just like, it's like, why would I?
Wait,
like,
I love that we have the same people that
yes, the same ones come for
want
us.
us to
He came
walk them
for
to their.
you?
Oh, he came for me so hard. On New Year's Eve, while he was having dinner with his family, he was like, "What are you doing tonight?"
This year?
Maybe 3 years ago.
But
was
he
like,
knows
I
you're-
hate that I'm with my in-laws right now. Do you want to go? He
At
did that
least
to
that
me.
is like, he thinks you're going to be a partner in crime. Like for me, I was like single. I'm like, why would I like, cause I was thinking about like, if we go to your truck, okay, like let's say I was like in, which I was never in at all. Let's say I was in, it's like,
I love this.
So wait, we walk to my car. I finished my spot being very good at comedy. You not being good at comedy. And then
That's a clue.
By the way, I don't want like to be seen with you.
That's the biggest clue you could ever give.
So as you can tell, rough start for our boy Brendan Schaub here. Definitely not a good look to be promiscuous when you're married, obviously. And yeah, although they didn't explicitly say it was him, definitely it was pretty clear that they were talking about Brendan Schaub. And again, this is only the start, so let's get into where this story has evolved into. So now we move a few months past the initial Trash Tuesday podcast, and in a subsequent podcast, the hosts reveal that the individual who they talked about in their first episode, who we know is Brendan Schaub, but they still aren't naming him, they mentioned that this individual is threatening to sue them. They won't specify exactly what he is threatening to sue for, but this was just such a weird development in this story that I don't think anyone expected.
Potentially, we were being threatened, a lawsuit. And I'm like scared to even say that out loud.
We can't really, we just won't say the name, right? But
We
we'll
won't,
just,
yeah.
But someone was like behind the scenes threatening to sue us.
Like, we never want to address like certain like either rumors or
No.
things like that. But I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, if someone were to just point blank ask me even the craziest question, I have nothing to hide. Like, ask me. I'm not threatened by it. So the threats don't actually threaten
whatever
me.
the
Please.
threat is that we don't want to talk about because we don't want to like add to it, because even the thing that started it all was really just an anonymous anecdote.
And I'll
that
say this
kind of,
to
like,
that
blew
person,
up. Yeah.
to that person who threatened us, I'll say this. You think you have a one over me? I fucking dare you, motherfucker. I dare you. Let it out of your chest, because that is actually not a real threat. You think you're threatening me, but it's kind of, that information's already out there, you little bitch.
Can confirm.
Yeah.
There's-
She can confirm. She can confirm. Bobby can confirm.
It's just also, I just want to say this, like, my currency is not money. My currency and where I see value power is in jokes. So I'm rich and you're broke, bitch. So come after me. You got nothing on me, you unfunny piece of shit. Come for me, I dare you.
So at this point, as a viewer, we know that there are extra details going on that we aren't privy to at this moment, but kind of as we move along, we start to get a little bit more insight into what exactly Brendan Schaub was threatening. So now let's get into the bulk of this video, where we'll talk about Khalyla and Bobby Lee's appearance on the H3 podcast. This is where they really aired a lot of the dirty laundry, and we really get a lot more insight as a viewer into all of the things that have gone on in the background.
My heart's beating because I want to be delicate about this.
100%.
Okay, yes.
You tread lightly.
I will tread lightly. The first time that we had talked, it was a story about someone who had hit on me 7 years ago with no intention other than to just tell a story about
Funny
something
story.
that happened.
Interesting.
By the way, I should preface this by saying I had a phone call with him. All is squared away and fine.
Okay.
But he did promise, we promised that this would never be brought up again, but then he went on Flagrant 2 and talked about it. So I was like, all right, deal's off. I'm going to talk about it on H2.
Deals off.
Yeah. So my problem with the whole thing was when he had a problem with me, he went through Bobby. Bobby was a filter. And I thought that was really not appropriate. I want to protect Bobby in all of this.
We're fucked.
We're not fucked.
Yeah,
Wait, why are you
we're fucked?
fucked?
So what did I say?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
so afraid of being bullied.
Why are you so afraid?
Here's my problem with just even this in general, okay? And since we're already talking about it, fuck it, right? But what I'm saying to you is that I have nothing to do with any of it. I don't even know what the fuck the thing is about, really. In
You don't
general.
like being put in the
Right.
middle of it.
Not was I not put in the middle of it. I was being screamed at and bullied.
It was
and
like a
threatened.
get
and-
your bitch in line phone.
Yeah.
Oh my
it
God.
Was, it was worse than that. It was way worse than that. And my point is that
I'm sorry, that's
now
disgusting.
my
Yeah.
fear is the results of whatever this is now going to be.
There's
Right.
no results because
There is a result.
No, there
You know,
isn't. I can call Schaub right now, and we could be like, all is squared away and everything is fine because we've already talked about it. The promise was that he would never talk about it again, and the next day he went on flagrant 2 and then talked about it, even though it was in a complimentary way.
Yeah, in a complimentary way. So my
I don't
point is
feel like we've
that-
said anything bad about him either. The point is, was there a text alluding to possibly suing people? Yes, there was. Did it freak me out and did it make me think, oh shit, like such a small thing to sue over? But was there a lot of misunderstanding from his team and us? Yeah, but we talked it through. But the truth is the truth, and it's all squared away.
As you can see, at the start of this podcast, things remained pretty vague, but as the podcast goes on, things start to open up a little bit more.
I'm just going to get this clear. So you guys were talking about there was this comedian that people assumed was him
Yeah.
that was trying to pick up all you girls, kind of a sleaze, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So he calls you and says, Bobby, get your woman in line? I mean, what kind of fucking animal does that?
It was not just him. It was.
Don't say the name.
I'm not gonna. But it was a phone call with other podcasters, and they threatened my career. They called me a coward, a pussy. You've always been a pussy.
I'm sorry,
What?
that's
You have
unacceptable.
Blackmail.
they said they would expose me. They said that all
That's-
these things, and I was in Oklahoma shooting a show, and I was at dinner, and I was by myself, and I was getting this. It was very traumatic for me. Now imagine now what's going to happen with now this.
It's good you said that.
I think it's good that you're saying that
Because
because
fuck them.
You
should
shouldn't-
stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
But I
That's
see
so
these
fucked
guys
up.
every time,
all
all the time.
But
you know
to
what I
be
mean?
But
clear,
they did it. They
this
took it there.
behavior
How
is
you-
unacceptable.
But
Totally.
to be
That is
clear,
That's fucked up.
when that happened, he called me like shell shocked and crying. At which point I said, "Give
I
me
wasn't
his
crying.
number."
Come on, I'm a man. They were like, we have evidence of something, right? So they said, right? They go, we have 50 pages of
No, they said 300 pages.
whatever of evidence.
Dude, Brandon Schwab can't even read, bro. How the fuck that guy bringing 300 pages of anything? That guy's barely literate. Are you kidding me?
Well, this is where I think that there's a disconnect between
Dude,
there's a disconnect between the information he's being fed by his team. I don't think it's all him. Like he's just like, I have 300 pages of proof that of an IP address that's linked to
Oh,
Bobby's. Listen to
please.
this, Ethan.
What a
Linked to
fucking
Bobby's
liar.
computer. I was like, do you realize how
Bruh.
tech stupid Bobby
Thank
is?
you.
He answers phone calls on his iPad. Do you know what I mean?
My man.
Saying that, and basically that we've launched an attack on him for the past 5-6 years. And I told Brendan, I was like, Brendan, with all due respect, like you're not an afterthought for us. Like, why would we as a company just dedicate 5-6 years to this harassment on Reddit when my sweet lover?
Oh, because a lot of people hate Brandon. There's like a whole like movement.
So yeah, he's trying to.
He blames
tie
that on
it-
you guys?
Yes, and so now we're at a point where it's like, well,
He says that he has proof that me, for the last 5 or 6 years, that I've been on Reddit.
So after hearing this additional context, it really shows how ridiculous the potential lawsuit or suing is in this situation. And it really just makes me sad that Bobby Lee has to deal with this type of behavior from fellow comedians. And at a later point in this interview, it's revealed that the extra dirt that Brendan Schaub had on Khalyla was the fact that her and Bobby Lee were in an open relationship, so she ended up sleeping with another guy in Hawaii, which to me, that's not really any kind of dirt, because if a relationship's open and if there is consent from both people in that relationship, it isn't really noteworthy at all. And in Brendan Schaub's case, it's kind of ironic that he would think that an open relationship's taboo when he's the guy who has been hitting on multiple women when he's actually married in a monogamous relationship. So yeah, I really just wanted to show kind of a condensed version of this H3 interview because it was a very long and stretched out interview, so I clipped everything together to make it a little bit easier to consume. And that's going to be it from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please be sure to like and subscribe. And yeah, if there are any further updates on this story, I'll be sure to update you all. So take it easy. Peace.